The importance of reader feedback to the writing process cannot be understated. I've mentioned previously finding beta readers for my work, and I do have some trustworthy people that I rely on. This is not something that I did back when I first started writing in the 1980s. I was very isolated at that time, didn't really think about the fact that others could be very helpful to me honing my writing skills and making my finished products the best work possible. And that may have played a large part in why I did not actually get published at that time, since I was submitting to big traditional publishing houses and getting a lot of rejections. So I didn't at that time understand the importance of finding readers to help me improve my work. And I've definitely learned that lesson now because writing is a very solitary process in the beginning, but we do need outside assistance to try to catch things that we miss along the way. So there are different levels of writing feedback that someone can get during this process of creating a book. And it starts with the critique partner, who is not technically considered a reader. It's more of a reciprocal exchange between two authors who are both working on something. It may be in the same genre, it may not be, but they will share work back and forth while they are working on their manuscript and provide suggestions and finish their manuscripts that way. I am not comfortable using critique partners. That is not something I've ever done. And for me, the process of writing is so much like an open wound that it just does not feel comfortable sharing that with someone until I have a finished draft. So I do not use the critique partner process in my work. There are also alpha readers who can be helpful again during the process before the manuscript is finished. So again, I haven't really done that, but they are not doing a reciprocal exchange. This is just somebody you ask to help you out with your manuscript. They don't provide you any manuscript in return, but they do provide you feedback on your story as you're writing it. Normally, I think you can have an alpha reader as you're winding up your manuscript, but it's probably helpful to have them help you out while you're working. Beta readers usually come along when you have finished a draft of your manuscript, maybe your very rough first draft, and they will provide you some high-level feedback on any story problems, plot holes, major inconsistencies that you'll need to fix before you really get too much further into the editing process. So beta readers are what I use most often. They are normally people I trust, like my husband or local authors that I know. So it is a kind of a small pool right now. I may add more beta readers to my process in the future, but for at least the next two books, I've been set on beta readers, and I may revisit that when I get to Restless Spirits Book 3. And I'm seeing that as I'm working on these two manuscripts at the same time, my processes are changing. And I'm guessing that that is showing up in these videos because you may hear me say one thing at one point, and then a few days later I may say, well, now I'm doing such and such a thing. So using my current beta readers is set for the moment. That may change in the future. I don't foresee myself using either critique partners or alpha readers. We don't know if that's going to change or not. There are also specific subsets of beta readers. So you can get target audience readers who would help you determine whether or not your manuscript fits into the specific genre that you're trying to write. In my case, for Restless Spirits Book 2, it would be paranormal romance. And they are very helpful because if you are missing a key component, you're not going to appeal to the audience that you hope to find for your book. So the target audience readers are a subset of beta reader that are specifically looking at the genre. There are also nitpicky beta readers who provide you overall feedback, but they may also pick up little things that you've dropped along the way, and those little breadcrumbs maybe that you meant to throw in there. Specifically, if you're writing something like a mystery, you want to have that trail of breadcrumbs so that the reader can start figuring out for themselves what's going to happen in the end, because you don't like to blindside your reader. So, nitpicky beta readers can come in handy. They can also be a little pain. And I think I am a little bit of a nitpicky reader. But in my case, it's more of a proofreading thing where it comes much later in the process. I don't provide a lot of overall story um, suggestions or recommendations, but in my case, I tend to provide a lot of those little nitpicky details like misspellings, missing punctuation, somewhere you missed a paragraph indentation or something really minor like that, which to someone like me actually can be like fingernails on a chalkboard. Then there's another category of reader called the sensitivity reader, and they are very important for a variety of reasons because they look for things like harmful stereotypes, they look for cultural insensitivities, they look for um, anything that might be not really common knowledge based on a specific culture or a specific nationality. And if a writer is writing outside of what we know commonly through our day-to-day lives. For example, I mentioned with Restless Spirits Book 2, I specifically asked my husband JT to read through to make sure that I was portraying the cochlear implant experience in a realistic way based on his experience. So sensitivity readers can be amateurs who are of a particular culture or they're a particular nationality or a particular minority group, and they can really help you make sure that you're portraying things accurately without leaning on those harmful stereotypes. But you can also hire professional sensitivity readers, and depending on the type of writing that's being done, um, if there is something that could be very important to get right, then an author might want to rely on a professional sensitivity reader for that. Then, once all of that process is done, you've gotten through the editing and the book is ready for publication, but it's not yet released, you come to the point where you can rely on advanced review copy readers. I have not yet used these. There are sites like I believe we're using one called Book Sirens, where you put up your manuscript, usually as a PDF, and someone can pick it up and read it, and then typically they will leave you a review in advance, normally on Amazon and or Goodreads. And this is a service that an author needs to pay for, but authors can also create their own pool of advanced review readers by maybe if they have a following, they can say, well, you can sign up to be an advanced review reader for my book. And they can be very important because it is difficult to get reviews. Getting reviews in advance of release can help generate excitement basically before the book comes out. It can help with the pre-sale period. So it's very important to authors to get advance reviews. Normally on most of my books that have already been released, I haven't used ARC readers before because when you're using sites like Book Sirens, for example, it is competitive because they only have a specific number of people available to read, and they get a lot of submissions from authors. So they need to figure out whether your book is going to appeal to people, because if not, there's really no point in putting it up there. Otherwise, it will just sit there and take up space on their site. So I have not yet gotten advanced reviews through that. JT has used Book Sirens with some success. He's gotten a few reviews in advance of his releases, not a large number. And normally, if a book is available on a site like Amazon, for example, and I know specifically this is related to Amazon, an author needs about 50 reviews to really start getting visibility. And it's very, very hard to get that many reviews. Goodreads is also connected to Amazon. So Goodreads and Amazon reviews, I guess, they kind of go hand in hand. And Goodreads allows authors to put up their own pages and answer questions and all that things. You can have an author page on Goodreads. I think Amazon reviews may populate over to Goodreads. I'm not clear on that because I haven't really been paying attention. But so if you can find advanced review copy readers who will leave reviews before your book is released, it can be hugely helpful in the release process, especially if an author is trying to do a pre-sale. And it may seem a little silly for an author who is not well known to try to pre-sell their book, but getting a lot of pre-sales helps visibility. So if an author really wants their book to be visible when it's available, getting pre-sales in advance is very helpful. And it helps generate excitement. And you can do things like some authors use what they call street teams. So they get people who not only read and review their books, but these people may also help promote their books. So they can do a virtual blitz on social media or something that will help them promote the book leading up to the day of release. So maybe the book is coming out on Friday. So the week before, the street team will start talking about the book. They may have read the book and provide their feedback on it. And all of these things can be very helpful to the author in finding the final reader, who is the general audience. And that would be anybody who decides to pick up the book. Whether or not they actually read it, some people love to buy books and then we just put them on a shelf, and maybe someday we'll feel like reading them and maybe not. We like to collect books. I saw someone say that buying books and reading books are two totally different situations. And that's absolutely true. I've bought some books that have sat for years before I touched them. I feel a little bad about it now, but not as much as I would have, because I have such a large TBR, to be read pile, due to all of the books I've picked up from fellow local authors that I'm going to read. I've been working my way through them slowly because I'm more focused on writing right now. So buying books and reading books, two totally different activities. But for those people who do read the books, hopefully at some point they may enjoy the book enough to review it and want to share it with others through word of mouth or something. So that is the final reader in the process, and that is once all of the other stuff has been done. Readers are so important to the writing process. The one exception is that if an author is just writing purely for personal satisfaction, and they just go through and they write what they write and they put it out there, or they may not even put it out there. They may just write for fun. They may journal. They may be writing their family history. There are many things that people may write that they don't particularly even want to share with the world. But for people who write in the hope that somebody will someday read their work, it is important to get readers before the work is finished, because that helps make the final product a much better experience for that final reader, the general public who pick up the book. You walk into Barnes and Noble and there's that table right by the door, and it's like, oh, hey, that looks like a cool one. Kind of flip it over, read the back. Sure, put it in your bag. You may buy it and put it on your shelf, and then years later, you're kind of bored and you don't know what to do with yourself, and you pick it up and you read it and it's like, wow, I wish I'd read this sooner. I've done that more times than I care to admit. And I would love to appeal to that kind of person. I mean, that would be awesome. I would love if somebody just picked up one of my books and it was sitting around the house and someday they picked it up and just kind of went, oh, this is fun. I'm glad I spent my time just enjoying this. And it gave me a little escape from whatever is going on in my life right now. So in order to get to a point where that type of reader will really enjoy the book, a lot of other eyes have already been on that book well before it was ever published and released to the world. And that's why I feel that all types of readers are very important to the writing process overall. So that's something I just wanted to talk about. I do think that my processes are changing, so I may expand my pool of beta readers at some point. Some authors are very, I don't know, organized, I guess, about the beta reading process, and they will create small questionnaires to ask their beta readers for specific kinds of feedback on their books. For example, for Battleborn Bride, I will want to know if I've misrepresented one of the historic events in the book, or if I've missed maybe an appropriate type of clothing or something. Since I'm writing about the 19th century, I do have resources to give me some of that background information, and I don't want to go too in depth in the book. I want to throw in little details here and there just as seasoning so that you get the idea of that time period. And I want to make sure I find that balance. So I will be specifically talking to my beta readers about whether or not they find that it's a well balanced mix of details versus the fiction part of the story. And I will be specifically looking for people who are familiar with the historic events, people who are familiar with the specific areas, and definitely people who are familiar with the genre, because I will be trying to appeal to young adult audience. I want to make it as exciting as possible for them because I want them to be so immersed in the story that they pick up the history without realizing it. I know history for me in high school was as boring as heck, and I hated it. I started to get much more interested in college. I had one professor who I loved his class. It was so easy to get an A in his class because at the beginning of the semester, he would give a study guide. The study guide had small spaces. It would have a topic, and then you would go through and you would fill out the study guide as you went. You could do it right away. You could do it as the semester progressed. And then at the end of the semester, when you were taking your final, you got to use the study guide. It was open book, open note. So based on how detailed your notes were, that really gave you the ability to do well on your test. And I thought this was a brilliant way to handle history because trying to remember dates and names and places was not easy. So having that in hand, having the ability to do some deep research on my own as we were going along really got me interested in history. And also working at the state archives really got me interested in specifically Nevada history, which is why I'm writing Battleborn Bride, because I want to share some of the fun things that I learned about Nevada becoming a state. And I'm hoping to inspire younger people to learn more about our state, because every state, I think, has a particular time period where students will learn about that state's history. I think in most cases it's maybe fourth or fifth grade, but I think they kind of go back to it a little bit in high school. And that's really, that's the demographic I'm trying to appeal to. I'm also hoping it will appeal to an adult audience with a passing interest in history, who don't want to really read those dense historic nonfiction books, but maybe more interested in picking up something fictional that's kind of a light-ish read, and they may be inspired to read more on the subject later, which is why I plan to include bibliographical endnotes in the book. That was a little off track from what I was talking about today, but in some ways it is related to readers in that general audience that I am trying to appeal to. So I'm looking for beta readers who will specifically help me determine whether or not I'm achieving those goals. And really that's what this whole topic boils down to, is finding the right people to help make that possible. So it is a good day so far. I'm having a very relaxed morning. I haven't yet done any writing, but I will be doing at least a small amount of work on Battleborn Bride today. I'm not doing my normal fast drafting video. until tomorrow, I'll be back on that playlist and we'll get back to that whole process. I'm around 35,000 words into the manuscript now. It is coming along well. I do have quite a bit more to go. I think I'm up to May of 1864, and I need to get to at least October of 1864. There may be a little bit of an epilogue at the end. I haven't decided for sure if that's where I'm going, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hoping I can just wrap this one up pretty quick because I'm going to be getting Restless Spirits Book 2 back from my editors again sometime fairly soon, and I have that trip coming up that I've mentioned. So, still a lot of work to do, but in the future, I will definitely be looking to expand my pool of readers. I will maybe be looking for more advanced review ARC readers and may attempt a marketing blitz for Battleborn Bride. We'll see how that one goes. But in the meantime, I think I will wish you a good day. I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. As I record this, it is Thursday, so we are coming up on the weekend again. If you are in the working world, I know that can be important if you have a normal Monday through Friday job. Here in Nevada, we do have a lot of people who work odd hours because of our basically our economy here. It's a lot of it is driven by gaming, or we do have a lot of agriculture. Surprisingly, in Carson Valley, which is south of Carson City, there is a lot of agriculture. So that can be a seasonal type thing. And then we have obviously gaming is a 24/7 situation. So not everybody here works Monday through Friday. I hope if maybe this is a day off that you're enjoying it, especially if you're here in northern Nevada. And I hope that you're having wonderful weather where you are. And I will talk to you again tomorrow. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Take care.